Hello everyone, this is Ramesh Shizad and I am a Flutter and FlutterFlow developer and I'll be teaching you different tips and courses regarding Flutter and FlutterFlow and please do consider subscribing my channel and press the bell icon so that you will receive all my videos in the future. So in this video I will be implementing search in FlutterFlow. So there are two types of searches in FlutterFlow. One is the simple search and the other one is Algolia search. For the Algolia search service, you have to pay for some specific amount to use this service. But for the simple search, it's completely free and it is provided by the FlutterFlow. And we will be implementing the simple search while connecting with my Firebase account, Firebase of this specific application. Here we can see that we have stored some data over here. So we will be implementing the search on this data. You can see that there is different type of data and we will be using this data for the implementation of search. So here's an example. Let's search for a term mob. So in the profiles you can see that there is mobile which is starting from mob. So here we can see that it is working really fine. So for in the news we search for the temp. So here you can see that the temperature news is showing up. Okay, so let's implement this search. So let's start from a Skyscreen. On the Skyscreen we have a container and first we will implement this text field inside a container. If we implement this inside a container, it would have different colors. Text field. So here's the text field. Now we can customize the text field by the container. So the container would have a weight of 50. No, it would have a weight. Container would have a weight of 300. Okay, and a height of 30 or 50 would be fine. So here you can see that it has a width of 300 and a height of 50. So let's align it in the center. Now it's in the center and the color of the container would be white. So here we can see that we have our text field and the container would have border radius, should be locked as 10. So now we can see that we have a text field here. So basically first of all we need to have a button over here after the text field. For that we would use a icon button. Icon button would be fine. So this is an icon button. Icon button should have a search icon. So for example, this is the button and this is the text field. So what we need to implement is when we write something on this text field and we click on the search button, it uses the text mentioned in the text field to generate the searches. So now on the icon button we have to set some properties or some actions. So we are adding here action named as simple search. Simple search. So this is the simple search, and the searches will be from 5 store collections, and the collections we have here are different types. So first of all, let's start with the users. No, let's start with the profiles. So we will search by name, and from where we will search, we will search from a variable, which is basically the variable which is storing the value of text field. So it's in the widget state. Here we can see that some hint text. So it will be using this text to search. Okay. So after that we need to have a list view. So here comes the list view. So in the list view, basically what we need to do is basically that first of all add some text or something like to show up the data from the Firebase. Here is the text. Okay. So for the list view we have here set at the source simple search results. So it would have the source from the simple search results. Okay, and the variable name which will store the simple search result would be like the profiles. So it means that all the data which was retrieved from the simple search will be stored in the profile variable. I hope everyone understands this concept. So now what we need to do? What we need to do is basically click on the text and set the value from the variable. So where's the variable? So we know that the value was stored in profiles and it's an item because the profile is having multiple types of data. So we click on that. So here we can have multiple properties. So let's start with the name. We have selected the name and we are saving here. Okay, so this implementation means that whenever we click on this text field and add some data and search for that, and it will show up the results for about this. So let's implement this. Let's run. To run this, we actually need to do some changes into our application. Okay, so I am running the application now, and I made some changes to my application so that if I click on this search button, I'll be redirected to the screen I have created just now. So let's just search for something, for example MOB, and if we click on search, we can see that we had data called Mobile in the Firebase, and in the Firebase we can see that here must be a data named as Mobile. Yes, you can see that the name is Mobile and it's showing up. So which means that it is the search is coming from the Firebase. So now we need to implement some widgets. This is only textual data. For the widgets, it's quite easy. I already had some widgets. For example, I had created this widget which use name, phone, email, and descriptions. So we will use this widget in the list view and implement the data so that it show up in searches. So let's move to the find screen. So we are in the find screen. We will just delete this text and reduce this widget. So in this widget we have to make some changes. So basically the name is basically coming from the profiles item and it's the name. So it shows the profiles items over here, which means that it will show up the name property of the profile item. So for the phone we will also do the same, profile items and the phone. So it would show up the phone number, and in the email we would use like the profiles items and the email. For the description we would use profiles items and the description, and now we click on the save button. So we are having some errors over here. Let's have a look what are these errors. So image path is not set, so the reference button, this is not required over here. So let's delete this icon button. Okay, so the image path, let's set the image path. We also had some image path. So for that we would have a network image. The path is basically the source from profiles items and it's the profile image, and click on save. So everything is completed over here. So now if we search about something, it will show up like in a widget form. So here's another thing. Now that we have implemented this single type of widget, if you want to search for the news, this all for the profile. If you want to implement for the news, We don't want to have this list view in this screen. We only want the news screen. For that implementation, first we will have another list view. And first of all, we will remove this icon button, and we will use a different button for the profile search and a different button for the news search. So we will have buttons. So the first button over here would be, it would come over here. So for that, first of all, basically just pop this out. You need to have a row. So in the row, we would have two buttons, one for the profiles and the other one for the news. So here's for the profile and here's for the news. So the board difference would be equal. So now paste back the list view. So now after pressing this button, it should show up the list view of profiles items. For that, first of all, change the name of the button as profiles. And now what we need to do is that implement the same functionality on this button, which was basically simple search. Okay, so simple search is for Firebase collection. The collection was profiles, and we used to search from the name. And the source was basically from the variable. The variable was from the widget state, and the widget state the text field. So it's done now. It's showing up an error because the list we need to be reconfigured. The source should be this one. So all the errors are fixed. So which means that if we click this profile button, it would show up this list view with the profile data. And now for the button, we need another button. We call it as news. And now if we click this button, simple search, file store collection. The collection should be the news, and search from the title, from the variable, and the variable the simple search result too, because basically the second time we would use this second simple search. And the available options are no. So here we need to have the value from the widget state. Widget state was the simple text field. Okay, so this is implemented. Now we need to have another list view below the upper list view. For that, we would select the column and the list view. I need to implement the list view below the upper list view. For that, I will just first crop this one, paste it again and again. So there are two list views. So we need to replace the widget with the news widget that we had. So for that, we would delete this container. So we have a list view over here, and now we will use the widget from the new screen. Here is the widget that we had created for the new screen. Pick up this container and use this container in the find screen. So now that we have implemented this news as well, we need to set up the values. The set values will be from the simple search result to and no. First of all, we need to have a list view with the properties. It would be named as news, and it would get the data from simple search to. After getting the data, okay, so after getting the data, we would use the data, the title, and the image path, image paths, the news and news image, and set the description. Okay, so we have implemented this thing. We will delete this. We don't need this here over here. Okay, so now we need to have this in case if we click this news button, and if we click this profile button, we need to have this. So for that, we need to use a local variable, which is search type. So when we click on profile button, we would update local state, and we would update the site type. We would set the value, and the name of the value would be profile. Okay. So now that whenever we click the profile button, the value will be updated to profile, and it would have a conditional visibility, which is a condition. The first value is basically from the local state, search type, and equal to specific value, which was profile. So whenever the local state value is profile, this list view will show up. And now for this list view, we would also implement the conditional visibility, and the condition would be the local state variable equal to the specific value, which is news. So if the user clicks on this news button, the list view of the news would show up. We would update the local state, the value would be the search type, and the new value would be news. So if we click the profiles button, it would show up the list view of the profiles. If we click on the news button, it would show up the widget of news. So let's get this loaded. Check this out now. So now the application is loaded and it's running. So now if we click on the search button and search for a profile, MOB, search in the profiles, we can see that it shows up here, but there is nothing named as MOB here, so the news is empty. And now we search for the temperature, and it shows empty here. In the news, there is a news named as temperature news. So the main implementation is done. Now you can add further functionality like this. So I have implemented it like that. I have 5 categories, and this button only shows up when the profiles, when the local state is on profiles, and all these are implemented in the same way. And there are 5 list views, and it's working perfectly fine. So I hope you like this video. Click the like button and share this video, subscribe my channel, and inshallah we will have another video soon.